Stop chasing what doesn't respect you. Every time you run after a woman who ignores you, you give away a piece of your power. There is nothing sadder than seeing a man lose his worth out of fear of losing attention that was never his. Respect is not begged for, attraction is not forced, and dignity is not negotiated. When a man kneels before indifference, he ceases to be desired. And the worst part is that he doesn't even notice it, because he is blinded by the need to be approved. Male self-control is not a strategy, it's a statement. It's the highest form of personal mastery. It's looking into the eyes of temptation and deciding not to move. It's understanding that not everything you desire deserves your energy, and that your silence often speaks louder than 1,000 words. Most people react, you must control. Most people beg, you must grow. Most people stay where they are not valued. You must withdraw with dignity. This video does not seek to teach you how to manipulate women, but how to master yourself. Because when you control yourself, everything else falls into place around you. Real attraction is not built with words, but with calm. True strength is not in imposing yourself, but in not lowering yourself. From today on, don't try to convince anyone that you deserve their attention. Become someone impossible to ignore. Respect, attraction, and worth are not won by chasing. They are won by walking with your head held high, even if the world turns its back on you. Uncontrol, don't react. The man who reacts loses, because every time you respond from emotion, you hand over the control of your life to someone else. Self-control is not about repressing yourself, but about governing yourself. It's a silent battle between impulse and reason, between what you feel and what you decide to do. When a woman provokes you, ignores you, or tests you, the weak man responds with anger, pride, or desperation. The strong man, on the other hand, observes, waits, analyzes, not because he is cold, but because he understands that every emotional reaction is an open door for others to manipulate his peace. Most men live dominated by the urgency to respond, to clarify, to justify themselves. But this need is the language of weakness. When you control yourself, you transmit something that cannot be faked: mastery. A controlled man doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he doesn't beg. His calm is his statement, and that calm disconcerts, attracts, and disarms, because in a world full of impulsive people, the one who remains calm is the one who has the power. Self-control is not built overnight, it is trained. It starts in the small moments. When someone provokes you and you decide not to respond, when anxiety pushes you to write and you choose silence, when you feel the need to act and instead you breathe. Each act of control is another brick in the fortress of your mind. It's not about repressing your nature, but refining it. A man who masters his emotions does not become insensitive, he becomes dangerous. Because his strength doesn't depend on the environment, but on his center. When a woman tests you with her indifference or distance, she is not rejecting you, she is measuring you. She's observing if you are capable of standing firm without crumbling because of her silence. And when you achieve it, when you do not give in to the impulse to look for her, to explain yourself, to claim, that's when everything changes, because she perceives something that is scarce: control. And control is the purest form of power, but self-control is not only with them, it's with yourself. It's learning not to let yourself be dragged by desire, anger, frustration, or fear. It's understanding that self-mastery is worth more than any external victory. That losing your calm for someone is losing yourself. That whoever manages to maintain their center, even in the midst of chaos, not only conquers respect, but also freedom. Don't forget this. Reaction is the trap. Control is the strategy. Every time you choose not to react, you rise. And not because you ignore what is happening, but because you choose not to give it power over you. That's what separates ordinary men from admired men. The former respond without thinking, the latter think before responding. And the truly wise Simply do not respond. Control is silent, but its effect is thunderous, because when a man masters his mind, his presence changes. He speaks less, acts better, and projects a strength that no one can break. That is the essence of masculine self-control, not letting anyone take you out of your center, because the one who masters his emotions masters his life. 2. Let your silence speak. The silence of a man with self-control is not empty, it is pure presence. It carries more weight than any impulsive word, more power than 1,000 explanations. In an era where everyone seeks to be heard, the man who chooses to be silent becomes a mystery. And mystery, when born from inner mastery, generates something no strategy can achieve: respect. Because silence is not the absence of an answer, it is an answer that does not need to be explained. It is the most elegant way of saying it doesn't affect me without uttering a single word. When a man is desperate to clarify, justify, or seek attention, he conveys lack. But when he remains calm and silent, he communicates something entirely different: stability. Silence is a demonstration of psychological power, a way of saying, I control when I speak, when I act, and when I withdraw. A woman can ignore your words, but she cannot ignore your energy when you choose not to react. Because authentic silence is not indifference, it is conscious control. Do not confuse silence with cowardice. It's not about being silent out of fear, but about being silent because you don't need to prove anything. The silence of the strong man comes from the understanding that explanation changes nothing, and that time reveals more than any argument. The impulsive man argues, the wise man observes, and that observation creates an advantage. Because while others wear themselves out with empty words, you analyze, understand, and act with precision. In relationships, silence has a magnetic effect. When a woman notices that you are not desperate for her attention, that you do not react to her game of indifference or her provocations, something changes. She begins to question. She wonders why you do not lose your cool, why you do not lose control like others. And at that moment, without saying anything, you have already won. Because silence does not seek to attract, it simply attracts. It does not need to convince, it just demonstrates control. Silence is also a mirror. It shows what the other does not want to see. When you do not respond to attempts at manipulation, when your only response is your peace, you force the other person to face their own internal noise. And that disconcerts, because most people cannot bear the reflection of their own insecurity. In contrast, the man who masters his silence becomes impenetrable, like a wall of calm in the face of someone else's emotional storm. But it's not about feigning distance, but about building it from strength. Silence should come from understanding, not resentment. When you're silent out of pride, you lose. When you're silent for peace, you win. Because true silence does not seek to punish, it seeks to protect. Protect your mind, your energy, and your dignity. Every word you do not say in a moment of weakness is an act of power. Remember this. Silence is not measured by the absence of sound, but by the presence of control. Speaking when you should and being silent when you can, that is true masculine wisdom. A man who knows when to speak is heard. A man who knows when to be silent is respected. There is no need to explain to anyone what is already clear. Your calm, your gaze, and your absence say more than any speech. Make your silence your signature. Let it be that when you are silent, the world is left uncomfortable, intrigued, or impressed. Because a man who does not need to raise his voice to be heard has already won the conversation. 3. Grow, don't please. Most men lose themselves trying to please. They seek approval in every word, validation in every gesture, and acceptance in every glance. But the more you try to please, the further you move away from yourself. You become a shadow that exists only to be seen, and that kills the essence of any man with purpose. Because when you live trying to please, to be liked, not to disturb, you give away the greatest power you have, your authenticity. Masculine growth begins when you understand that you are not in this world to please anyone, but to evolve. That your worth does not depend on a woman's smile or the attention she gives you, but on what you build when no one is watching. The man who seeks approval never grows. He only adapts to the desires of others. But the man who seeks to surpass himself, even if doors are closed to him, even if he is rejected or misunderstood, becomes inevitable. Because life always ends up bowing to those who do not surrender to the comfort of being accepted. When a woman feels that everything you do revolves around her, she loses respect. Not because you are bad, but because she perceives need, and need suffocates desire. But when she sees that you continue to grow, that your focus is on your progress, that your energy is directed towards your purpose and not towards her attention, then her gaze changes. Not because you seek her, but because you no longer need her. And the paradox is this: true masculine attractiveness is not in the effort to please, but in the indifference of one who already belongs to himself. Growing is not becoming arrogant. It is understanding that the priority is you. That before offering love, you must build yourself. That before seeking approval, you must have a direction. That before sharing your time, you must know where you are going. A man who focuses on his development becomes dangerous because he does not depend on anyone's emotional validation. He knows that people come and go, but his purpose remains. And that generates something that no appearance can buy: lasting respect. Masculine self-control is strengthened when the desire to please becomes a desire to improve. When instead of seeking acceptance, you seek discipline. When instead of changing for someone, you change for yourself. Every time you choose to grow, you choose power. And that power doesn't shout, doesn't show off, doesn't ask for attention. It's noticeable in your gaze, in your way of walking, in the calm with which you move through the world. If you stop pleasing, you won't lose anyone who truly values you. Only those who wanted you weak, those who fed on your need, will leave. And although it hurts at first, that emptiness will be the space where your real growth begins. Because the man who grows from self-control does not seek to fill his life with the attention of others. He fills it with purpose, effort, and conviction. Remember this: pleasing makes you predictable. Growing makes you free. The former lives at the mercy of others' judgment. The latter walks guided by his own fire. Don't choose to be the man everyone approves of. Choose to be the man whose silences are respected even. 4. Withdraw with dignity. Nothing shows more strength than knowing when to leave when you could still stay. The weak man clings, the strong man withdraws. Not because he doesn't care, but because he understands that staying where there is no respect is to lose oneself. Withdrawing is not surrendering. It's a silent declaration that says, "My peace is worth more than your attention." And although pride sometimes wants to convince you to insist, self-respect reminds you that what is begged for becomes poison. Self-control is measured in moments where your ego wants to prove something, but your mind tells you it's not worth it. When you learn to leave without noise, without complaints, without dramas, you become a man who understands his worth. Because true strength is not in holding on to what is broken, but in having the clarity to let go of what no longer chooses you. And that clarity only comes from an internal mastery that doesn't need to be approved by anyone. A woman may forget your words, but she will never forget the day you left calmly, without anger, without revenge, without seeking explanation. That kind of departure leaves a mark because it doesn't seek to punish, it seeks to preserve. Preserve your energy, your respect, your center. When you withdraw with dignity, your silence screams something that the other cannot ignore, that you know who you are and that you don't need to beg to be seen. Most men stay out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of losing, fear of accepting that they are no longer needed. But that fear is what destroys them. The man who withdraws with dignity understands that what he really loses if he stays is his essence. And no love, attention, or promise is worth that. Because when a man respects himself, everything he loses stops hurting, and everything he gains begins to make sense. Withdrawing with dignity does not mean disappearing coldly. It means accepting what can no longer be changed and moving on without resentment. It means choosing silence over conflict, calm over confrontation. It means looking forward and trusting that your worth does not depend on who recognizes it. The man who leaves with dignity does not seek to punish, he seeks to evolve. Because he knows that his absence weighs more than his forced presence. In the end, withdrawing is also a test of faith. Faith in you, in your purpose, in the fact that every ending brings a beginning. You become a free man when you no longer need to stay where you are not appreciated, when you understand that respect is not demanded, it is demonstrated by leaving. Because the one who respects himself teaches without saying anything. Remember this, begging subtracts power, withdrawing gives it back. And although it may hurt at first, that pain is temporary. The loss of your dignity, on the other hand, is permanent. So when the time comes, don't explain, don't complain, don't beg. Just turn around, look ahead, and continue on your path. Let your silence be the proof of your strength and your withdrawal, the lesson the other will never forget. Because a man who knows when to leave when he should never loses, he only rises. 5. Defend your boundaries. A man without boundaries has no identity. Whoever cannot say this far ends up being shaped by the desires of others. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They separate what adds from what destroys, what strengthens you from what wears you out. Defending them does not make you hard or insensitive, it makes you aware of your value. Because when you don't set your borders, others will do it for you. And believe me, they will never put them where it suits you. Many men lose respect because they confuse kindness with submission. They yield for fear of seeming cold. They please to avoid rejection. They keep quiet to avoid conflict. But that passivity disguised as kindness only feeds the lack of respect. A man who does not defend his boundaries soon ceases to be admired, because nobody values those who let themselves be walked over. Attraction does not come from unconditional surrender, but from the balance between giving and preserving. Defending your boundaries does not mean raising your voice, but maintaining your stance. It's saying no without guilt, enough without fear, and goodbye without resentment. It's standing firm when you're tested, when they see how far they can push you, when your calm is challenged. And that happens more often than you think. A woman, consciously or not, will test your boundaries, not to humiliate you, but to see if you really believe in yourself. Because the man who respects himself does not need to remind it, it is noticeable in how he behaves. Don't get it wrong, boundaries are not to control others, they are to control yourself. They are the highest form of emotional discipline. When you know what you allow and what you don't, you act with clarity. You don't get tangled up in draining relationships. You don't seek validation from those who don't offer it. You don't give in to manipulation. Your boundaries become an invisible shield that protects your energy, your peace, and your time. Defending your boundaries also means losing people, spaces, or opportunities that are not aligned with you. But that loss is victory, because everything that leaves when you defend yourself should never have stayed. Don't fear disappointing others, fear disappointing yourself. Because when you betray yourself just to please, the price is too high. No connection is worth more than your internal balance. Self-control is strengthened when you set your rules and follow them. It doesn't matter if others don't understand them. What matters is that you respect them. When you do, your energy changes. You become more serene, more focused, more imperturbable. You no longer react to chaos because you know what you're willing to tolerate. And that clarity, in a world where everyone seeks complacency, becomes your most attractive power. Remember this, respect is not demanded, it is inspired. But you only inspire it when you show that you have boundaries and that you abide by them. That you don't yield to whim, that you don't degrade yourself for attention, that you don't sell yourself for company. When your dignity becomes a priority, you project something that no one can ignore: real strength. Defend your boundaries even when your voice trembles. Because the first time you choose yourself, you will feel selfish. The second, free. And when you finally understand that every no you say brings you closer to your peace, you will stop fearing rejection. Because you will understand that losing someone who crosses your boundaries is never a loss, but a liberation. 6. Make your absence powerful. When you disappear with purpose, your silence becomes presence. Absence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's the firmest way to remind the world, and whoever lost you, that your worth was not in being available, but in knowing when to step back. In times where everyone seeks attention, the man who knows how to disappear becomes memorable. Because his absence doesn't leave a void, it leaves an impact. Most fear leaving because they believe they will lose relevance, but the truth is the opposite. Distance reveals your weight. If when you leave nothing changes, it's because you were never truly there. But if your silence is uncomfortable, if your absence is noticeable, if your energy remains present even without saying a word, then you understand the true power of absence. It's not about disappearing out of pride, but out of respect. Respect for your peace, your time, and your energy. When a woman feels that your life continues to move forward without her, that your days do not revolve around her attention, something breaks in her perception. Not because you ignore her, but because you are no longer affected. And that's what's most disconcerting: genuine indifference. Not feigned, not forced. The one that is born when you understand that you don't need to prove anything, or recover anything, or show that you are worth it. Your value stands on its own, even when you are not present. Make your absence a lesson. Let the other person understand that with you also went the calm, the stability, the clarity. Because men who master their energy do not shout to be heard. They leave, and their silence makes more noise than any speech. Absence is power when there is purpose behind it, not ego. It's not a flight, it's a silent statement that says, my time is not wasted where it is not appreciated. Walking away doesn't always mean you stopped loving. Sometimes it means you started respecting yourself. And that difference changes everything. When you learn to leave without seeking recognition, when you disappear without resentment, you begin to heal. Because you no longer act out of reaction, but out of consciousness. Well-used absence does not hurt, it teaches. It teaches others to value you in your fair measure and yourself, to remember who you are without anyone's gaze. Masculine self-control finds its greatest test in the ability to not need to be present to feel complete. It's the freedom of knowing that your worth does not depend on how many miss you, but on how much you grow while you're not there. In that space, away from the noise, you are reborn. Your mind clears, your focus sharpens, and your inner power strengthens. Because absence is also training. It teaches you to be emotionally self-sufficient, to nourish yourself from your purpose, not from the attention of others. Don't fear leaving where you are not respected. Fear staying where your presence is taken for granted. Because when you learn to use your absence as a message, you discover something that most will never understand. Sometimes the strongest move is to do nothing. Remember this: whoever truly values you shows it when you're not there. And whoever doesn't confirms that leaving was the best decision. Your silence, your distance, and your focus are weapons of power. Not to dominate others, but to remain master of yourself. Because the man who learns to disappear without losing himself returns stronger than ever. 7. Prioritize your purpose. The man who lives without purpose ends up chasing everything that shines, even what destroys him. When you don't know where you're going, any distraction seems like a destination. And in that void, many lose their power, their focus, and their courage. Purpose is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the axis that holds your mind when emotion tries to dominate you, the north that guides you when attraction confuses you. A man with direction doesn't get lost in anyone, because he already knows who he is and where he's going. The most common mistake is to make a woman your goal. You place her at the center of your life, make her your motivation, and without realizing it, your existence begins to revolve around her approval. And when that happens, you're doomed to lose yourself. Because nothing that comes from outside can fill the void of a man who still doesn't belong to himself. Your purpose should be your refuge and your engine, not a relationship. It's what keeps your dignity intact when everything else fails. A man focused on his purpose conveys something that can't be faked: direction. He doesn't scatter, he doesn't beg, he doesn't compete for attention. His life itself already makes sense. Women may admire him, but they don't dominate him. Because his priority is not to impress, it's to move forward. He doesn't seek company out of necessity, but by choice. That difference changes everything. The energy of someone pursuing a purpose is magnetic, because it doesn't depend on desire, it depends on the mission. Purpose makes you selective. You don't waste your time on empty conversations or on ties that hold you back. You start to care with whom you share your energy, because you understand that every minute of your path takes you away from your vision. The man who knows what he wants doesn't beg for affection or attention. He inspires respect, because people recognize the strength of someone who doesn't need external validation to feel alive. Prioritizing your purpose doesn't mean forgetting about love, but not sacrificing yourself for it. If a woman fits into your life, it will be because she walks in the same direction, not because you stopped your march to wait for her. The respect you generate by maintaining your focus is much more powerful than any effort to please. Because a man with purpose doesn't have to prove his worth. His life proves it for him. But purpose is not found in a single day, it's built. It starts with discipline, with clarity, with the daily decision to move forward even when no one applauds you. The tough days don't stop you, they shape you. Failures don't define you, they polish you. Every sacrifice you make for your goal feeds your character. And when that character matures, you become an unstoppable man. Because you no longer depend on volatile emotions, but on firm convictions. Don't forget this. When your purpose becomes your priority, your presence changes. You walk differently, you speak differently, you look differently. Your energy communicates power, not arrogance. Calm, not weakness. You no longer seek attention, you naturally attract it. Because people feel when someone is in their axis, and that's something you can't fake. Your purpose is your throne. If you abandon it to please someone, you'll lose the respect of others and your own. But if you defend it, even if it hurts, you'll become the type of man who doesn't need to chase anything, because everything worth having follows him. 8. Don't seek validation. Every time you need someone to tell you who you are, you lose a piece of yourself. The man who seeks validation lives chained to the opinion of others. His mood depends on the messages he receives, the compliments he gets, or the silence that ignores him. This dependence is an invisible prison that slowly destroys his essence. Because when your worth depends on the approval of others, you're giving up your greatest power to be self-sufficient. Validation is addictive. It starts with small gestures, the message you're waiting for, the "I miss you" that doesn't arrive, the reaction to a story. And when it doesn't appear, you feel anxiety, frustration, or anger. You convince yourself that if you get a response, you'll be worth more. But what's really happening is that you're handing over control of your emotions. You're letting someone else decide when you're enough. And that's not self-love, it's emotional slavery. Masculine self-control is born when you stop waiting. When you understand that you don't need to be recognized to know who you are. A man who validates himself walks with a different energy. He doesn't seek attention, he provokes it. He doesn't compete, he focuses. He doesn't react to indifference because his worth isn't measured by it. True confidence isn't shouted, it's felt. And whoever possesses it doesn't need to prove it. Seeking validation is seeking permission to exist. But no one has the right to grant it to you. What makes you valuable isn't how much you're applauded, but how much you can move forward without anyone doing it. The strongest men aren't those who receive the most admiration, but those who act even when no one sees them. They don't expect recognition, they build in silence. And that unwitnessed consistency is what ultimately elevates them. Stop seeking approval, start building respect. The difference is huge. Approval is bought with complacency. Respect is earned with consistency. When your words and actions align, when you don't contradict yourself, when you maintain your principles even in solitude, you project a strength that doesn't need to be validated, because it already comes from within. A woman may admire your physique, your charisma, or your talent, but she will only respect your emotional independence. The most enduring attraction comes from the man who doesn't bend for acceptance, who doesn't change his essence for momentary attention, who understands that external validation is ephemeral, but self-respect is permanent. And when that respect becomes your guide, no one can manipulate you. Don't confuse humility with dependence. You can listen to criticism without losing your center. You can accept compliments without inflating your ego. But never allow any opinion to define your direction. The most important voice is the one that sounds in your mind when you're alone. If that voice approves of you, everything else is noise. Remember this, the day you stop seeking validation, you'll find freedom. You won't have to force conversations, chase attention, or prove your worth. Your calm will speak for you, because the man who doesn't need to be seen to know who he is becomes impossible to ignore. External validation is fleeting, but internal respect lasts a lifetime. 9. Don't negotiate your worth. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you're telling the world how much you think you're worth. And that figure is defined by no one else but you. The most common mistake among men is to think that love or acceptance is earned by giving in. You give your time, your principles, your boundaries, until one day you realize that you gave everything, except respect for yourself. And the most ironic thing is that the more you lower yourself, the less you are valued. Because respect is not negotiated, it is imposed with consistency. Not negotiating it does not mean being inflexible or arrogant, but having clarity. It means knowing who you are and what you are not willing to lose, even if that means being alone. Because a man who knows himself is not afraid of loneliness. He fears losing his essence to please. On the other hand, the one who settles for fear of being left without company will always live as an emotional prisoner. And that prison is worse than loneliness because it slowly steals your dignity. When a woman sees that you give in to everything in order not to lose her, she stops respecting you. Not out of cruelty, but because she perceives your need. But when she observes that you have standards, that you do not accept emotional crumbs or half-hearted attention, she begins to see you differently. No longer as someone easy to manipulate, but as a man aware of his power. Real attraction does not come from the one who adapts to everything, but from the one who stands firm, even under pressure. Do not negotiate your worth for fear of appearing difficult. Strong men are not those who please, but those who inspire respect for their stance. A timely no is worth more than 1,000 excuses to justify your surrender. If something does not give you peace, if it demands you to lower yourself, if it makes you feel small, then do not accept it. Because nothing that takes away your internal power is worth keeping. Your value is demonstrated in silence, not with words, but with actions, with the way you choose, with what you tolerate, and with what you let go. The day you decide not to negotiate your dignity, you will begin to attract people who vibrate at the same frequency. Because life always puts in front of you what you believe you deserve. If you think little of yourself, you will receive little. If you respect yourself, everything around you will change. Remember this, men who do not negotiate their value do not need to shout their importance. It is noticed in their gaze, in their calm, in their ability to walk away without fear. Because they understand that losing something external will never be as serious as losing respect for oneself. And when your value stops depending on others, the whole world begins to treat you as what you always were, someone who does not sell out, someone who chooses himself. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you watched the whole thing, comment, "I am Stoic," as our secret signal to know that you're a true student of Stoicism. Don't forget to subscribe and give the video a like if you enjoyed it. See you in the next video, and remember, keep cultivating your Stoic mind.